Alright, this is gonna be a bit of a different video than you might be used from me. First of all, you're gonna be seeing a lot more of my face, which I usually keep out of my videos. And second of all, well, there's maybe actually no good seconds. I thought it would sound good, but I just want to talk about my plans for my channel going forward. As you can already see in the title, I am gonna be taking a break from Guild Wars 2, and I'm gonna get to the exact reason why in a bit. But I also want to say that I won't stop making content though. I still want to keep uploading 1 to 3 videos a week and finally start streaming again. I also want to take this moment to thank every single one of you who has been watching, has watched in the past, or who might come across my videos in the future. See, I posted my very first one about a year and a half ago after my doctor told me I should really try and pick up a creative hobby. As at that point, I had been on sick leave for about 3 years, which also led to a rather severe depression. All of this diagnosed and confirmed by professionals, by the way, not myself or a WebMD. Now, I didn't want to draw or paint. I can't do either to save my life, and frankly, I don't enjoy the process. Now, I wish I was a good singer, but no great musician is lost with me either. So instead, I figured I'm gonna make one video, which is manageable and something I had been thinking about for years at that point. But I always found a reason not to. And since I didn't know what to talk about, I figured I'm gonna make them about my favorite pastime, which is gaming, or rather my favorite gaming franchise. So yeah, April 28, 2023 is an important day to me. That's when I published my very first one, and to be honest, it's a bad video. The pacing is off, audio quality is bad, and if you're used to my new style of videos, well, I don't think you'll like the old ones. But I needed to start somewhere. Then came my second video, and I think I lucked out on that one. For some reason that I couldn't understand back then, over 10,000 people watched it over the course of 4 days. But instead of me being happy, I actually had a panic attack, which is something that was very common for me back then. Now, I also want to say, those are behind me, I'm doing way better, haven't had one in a year. But seeing the response to that video motivated me to keep making more. And that's where I started rushing my recovery a bit, I think. See, I'm someone who lives by excess. If I like doing something, I'm gonna do too much of it. If I hate doing something, well, either I won't do it or I'm gonna get it over with as soon as I can. Anyway, there's over 300 videos in total on my channel right now, if you also include my shorts and my live streams, and the numbers behind those kinda blow my mind. All of you have watched my videos more than 2 million times in the past 18 months, for a total of 102,000 hours. 102,000! There's only 8,716 a year, so all of you collectively watched my content for over 11 years already. So yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. But enough about my backstory. Let's talk about Guild Wars 2, because I feel like I put myself in a rather unique position. See, being on sick leave and having that much time on my hands, I basically escaped into the game and I've played for an insane amount of time. Over the past 2 years, it turns out I played as much as I had over the previous decade. And if efficiency is accurate, it turns out I put in more than 5,000 hours since January of last year. And while I'm far from being done with the game, I noticed that during my break, which I took for health related reasons by the way, I kinda lost my motivation to come back. Up until this point, I always managed to set myself a goal in the game. Last year, I figured I'd finish my legendary equipment collection, which I basically did if we ignore those 4 underwater sigils. And let's be honest, I feel like they're there for completionism, because the only use case for underwater sigils is the fractal maybe, and I'm pretty sure half the people I've played with don't run any, or sometimes not even an exotic weapon. And that is fine by the way, I mean, I have done that fractal with a blue weapon myself. Then this year I figured, well, it's time to improve the overall quality of life of my account, which was expensive. I chose the in-game route of converting gold to gems and then buying all backslot expansions, as well as build an equipment templates for all 9 professions. And I found the total cost so interesting, I figured I'm gonna make a video about it. Funnily enough, it's my most disliked one, but I had fun making it. After that, I also bought the permanent trading post access, as well as a portable crafting station, so I feel like in terms of quality of life, I'm kinda done. Now, I also know that I play the game differently than is intended. Like many others, I like to do a lot of things on my own so that I am not bound by a schedule and I can switch an activity whenever I get bored. And don't get me wrong, I also enjoy the group content, and if we think back to our 50-man convergences we used to run on stream, I really enjoyed doing those. But I didn't enjoy making the squad, dragging 50 people into the right subgroup, typing out whatever instructions people expected from me, and most of all, I dislike waiting around, be that in that convergence, in front of a wall of Jack Garant, or any other meta event. I just want to hop in and game. I don't want to do admin, I don't want to stand around. Now, a lot of the solo content I've been doing also rewarded me with avoiding the game's greatest feature, and that's the combat. See, it's smooth, you have a lot of fun abilities to pick from, and there's so many builds that you can basically play whatever, however, whenever. But when I'm gathering, I'm gonna avoid combat. When I'm doing achievements, well, I'll often avoid combat. And whenever I have to actually do combat, like so many others, I kind of fell into a trap of getting it over with as soon as I could. Whether that's the Heart of Thorns 0 points or just doing random events for Jade Runestones. Now, I do know that this is a me problem, and for the longest time, I've gotten my combat fix from doing group content. I've done the raid so many times over that I have all legendary armor sets, as well as enough LI for almost a 4th1, and I've been doing the daily strikes to a point that they feel like a scripted event to me. And I've also been running the Fractal CMs in the past few months, figuring I would build up my UFE to get into groups faster. But every time I do any of these, it feels like the same content. And that makes sense because it's been out for years now. Having put in as much time as I have, I also feel like this is inevitable. And Sognas, who's one of the driving forces behind the Heartstuck website and raid core, put it way better than I ever can. ArenaNet has been on a roll with their new content model. They've been adding tons of quality of life, giving into fan requests and focusing on quality content. But for a player like me, the quantity ends up lacking. So where does that leave me? Well, there's two things I actually learned throughout all of this. The first is that I truly enjoy making content, be that videos or live streaming. The second is that I just like grindy games. I like it when I can farm non-stop without a diminishing return mechanic kicking in like in the Guild Wars open world. I also like it that I'm not penalized for wanting to run a dungeon multiple times per day. And most of all, I like it when my solo experience is just as good as the group one. I've also always been very open about my goals during my live streams. See, I want to turn this into a full-time endeavor, and I try to do everything to set myself up for success. I put away some savings to hold me over for a year, maybe two, so that I don't have to panic about my bills and money, and I try to stick to a schedule. And if you want a bit of a further peek behind the curtain, I'm actually nowhere close to my goal, but I've also only been realistically at it for about 6 months, so I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna see wherever I end up in a year and a half. But let's get back to the game, or my plans moving forward rather. I have no idea how long this break will last. Maybe I'm back by the next content update, maybe I'm not. I do have more Guild Wars 2 videos that aren't finished yet though, and I'm gonna continue working on those and release them whenever I can. They're more of the documentary style format like that gem store video, or about the swim speed infusion taking you 300 years to farm if you want to do it solo. There are a few others I'm gonna have to put on hold though. See, I could still easily make the week ahead without actually playing the game, as it's basically all numbers and economy. But making a single one takes me anywhere from 6 to 10 hours, which is time I want to commit to making other content. I've also been getting a lot of questions about my next Lore Masters episode, or rather when it's gonna be, and those I'm definitely gonna have to put on hold. I already want to thank all 9 people who appeared in the first 3 episodes, as well as Rose, Noxie and Muckluck who wanted to be on episode 4. But properly making one of those takes me anywhere from 50 to 100 hours and is closer to 100 if you add up all of the research, making all of the questions, the visuals, double checking them for accuracy, then the actual organization, doing the episode, and then doing the editing for YouTube later on. That is time I just can't justify putting in until I can ask for help from other people, and I have gotten those offers, but I don't want to accept any help or ask anybody to spend 10 to 20 hours of their week on one of my projects when I can't even pay them for them. So instead, I'm going to focus on other games, both for the channel and during my live streams. A couple of weeks ago, I already tried to throw in a Liberty early access, and while I didn't stick with the game, it showed me a couple of things I didn't even know I was missing by only playing Guild Wars 2. After Throne, I gave the new Diablo expansion a shot, and longtime viewers will note that I actually already covered the game on my channel before I came back to Guild Wars last summer. So for now, I think I'm gonna focus on Diablo and maybe later on ARPGs in general, as they seem to be ticking all of the boxes I mentioned earlier on in this video. Now, one of the other things I still need to talk about is the Discord community we all built together. See, originally I made a server for some quick Q&As, but it's grown to a place with over 1600 people who host weekly raid clears, who post their own resources and research, and where you can access mine and other people's spreadsheets and crafting lists, as well as simply hang out and chat with other fans of the game. I'm still gonna be as active as ever there, and if you have a question about my guides or the game, I'm still gonna help you to the best of my abilities. Although I also need to confess, there's a lot smarter people on there that can probably help you better. The only thing I probably want to is make those questions into a video like I did with the ecto crafting one. But there's already a lot of theory crafting and discussions that happened on there that never made it to a video either. So in my opinion, that doesn't really change. So yeah, in the coming days, I'll publish the first few Diablo videos, and some will be guides, others will be more of a documentary style format, and I'm finally gonna start my lore series. I'm gonna start with Diablo, but I eventually intend to loop back around and cover Guild Wars lore too. The way I'm gonna go about this is that I'm gonna let YouTube do their thing and ping those of you who have notifications turned on only for the Guild Wars video. I'm gonna turn the feature off for the Diablo videos, so that way those of you who don't want to see any other content than Guild Wars should never be bothered with the new ones. As I've already hinted at, I'm ready to stream again as well. I've taken a very long break, but it was kinda needed for my own health. I'm only still getting back on my feet after being basically sidelined for 3 to 4 years, and it turns out that putting in 50 plus hours into making videos and maybe another 50 into live streaming every single week was a bit too much. But I feel like I'm back where I need to be, and I just have one more goal for the next year. And that is bumping my 60 concurrent average viewership on Twitch up to 75 so that I can finally make partner there as well. So I really hope to see some of the usual crowd there whenever I go live in a couple of days. Lastly, there is a second, maybe secret project I've been working on, but I can't show yet. I'm basically a massive true crime fan. I've seen all the Netflix and Amazon Prime documentaries on true crime, so I figured I'm gonna be covering some of the more interesting cases myself as well, but all of that is gonna be on a second channel. This one is for gaming, forgetting about your daily responsibilities, and just everybody having fun. So that's where I'm at.